So thank you for reminding me. Now that I've
Yep.
started the recording, I shall just like to welcome everybody. And yeah, as I say, today we're going to make the chest to start with. Um, I'm not sure how long it takes. I don't know how long it took me to make it originally. But we'll see how we get on. If we get it finished, we'll maybe start with something else. But I did want to resize the cave as well, because one of the issues we had was when you walked through, your head poked out the top of the tunnels and you could see outside of it. So I just wanted to increase the scale of that. If we have time, we'll do that, but we'll concentrate on the chest first of all. So what I normally do when it comes to making stuff, because I try and make stuff to scale, and this is no joke, I literally hold my arms out and I'll say, chest, it's about that long. And then I'll guess what size it's going to be and how high from the ground it wants to be, etc. So I'm literally holding my arms out now, and I would say you're looking at maybe, I don't know, maybe a metre and a half long. Maybe that's a bit too big. Maybe a metre. Shall we start with them? Because we can always scale it down as well when it's done. It's just guesswork to start with. So I literally just go up to the top here, open up my end panel, and we'll say along the x-axis it's going to be about 1.5 meters. Let's see, that doesn't seem right, does it? It seems awfully, but there we go, never mind. I'm sure it'll all become clear in a minute. We want it to be about, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of a meter high, perhaps. Oh, that's not right, that should have been the Z. And then on the Y, actually the Y could be the same. That looks kind of chest shaped, doesn't it? So I'll apply the scale. And the first thing I want to do is to remove that top face, and this is going to be our chest. And then I'll apply, this is where the modifiers come in. These are really cool because at the moment we've only got one face, which is, if I turn on, that's not what I wanted, come out of that, turn on face orientation, the blue sides are the sides that you would see in Unity, but the red sides you wouldn't. If you look inside the chest, you'll be able to see straight through it, because the normals are facing outwards, and we need some normals also facing inwards. So we can add a modifier, and this is called solidify. And with this, what it does, you can see here, it's actually created some thickness and created an interior for our chest, and we can adjust the thickness of the chest here. Now you'll see as I'm going up, it's going inside, it's getting thicker towards the inside of the chest. If I go the opposite way, it goes thicker towards the outside.
Make an ice chest.
Yeah, but I'm going to make it thicker towards the inside, and maybe something like that, because it's made of wood and we need it to be sturdy. The offset is something that basically tells you where your thickness is going to start from, shall we say. So if I leave this at 0 to start with, so it looks kind of purpley because it's blue on top of red, it's occupying the same space. And if I set that offset to 0, when we start thickening it, it thickens on both the inside and the outside. So that might be something you want when you're modelling. But in this case, when I'm going up, it's going on the outside. If I set it to negative, it's going on the inside. So we're going to set it to about there. And it's always a good idea as well to tick this even thickness thing. You can see there, it makes sure that all the sides have all got exactly the same thickness, which is usually what you want. So that is basically it. to start with for the basic chest. I'll turn off face orientation, and I'll also turn on, that's not what I wanted, turn on cavity so you can see all the edges a bit better. That'll just make it a bit more visible. And then I'm not going to apply this solidify modifier. I'll just minimize it for now so it doesn't distract me, and if I apply any other modifiers, it's not, that one will be expanded as it basically, so I'm not adjusting the wrong thing. It's always a good idea anyway to minimize them when you're not using them. If we edit this, if we go into edge mode, we'll stop doing that, Lisa, because not everybody has the plug-in I've got.
Please stop.
Mode.
Hey, down. Yes, you.
I thought you were talking to me there. Because
No,
this
no.
modifier isn't applied, you'll see that when I select all the faces or the edges, it only selects the one that are actually on the mesh. There is, because none of this is actually real yet, because I haven't applied it. And that's exactly what we want. Because what I want to do, I'm going to make a quick note of the value here, 0.04. What I want to do is just take the edges. What I did here was I pressed Control and then clicked an edge, and it selects all of the edges here. And what I'm going to, actually, to be honest, I don't want that. I just want that edge and that edge, because what I'm going to do, I'm thinking about this. Give me a second. I'm going to use the spin tool. I only want to spin from one edge, don't I? Yes, I do. Yes, you do, Lisa. So, yeah, what I'll do is I'll start with this edge, and I'm just going to duplicate it by pressing Shift and D. There it is there. Hit escape and it'll just snap back to where it was. And I'm going to separate it from the other mesh. So I press P for separate and just select that one there, selection. So now I have something called cube 1, but all it is an edge and nothing else. I'll go back to the cube and I'll just select these two edges here. What I want to do is put the cursor right in the center of these two edges here. And to do that, you know what, I'm not even sure how to do this using the I'll just press Shift and S and set the no, that's the origin. Set the cursor to the edge. We'll select this cube here. Now it's got the solidify modifier on. I don't want that on this one because it's copied the modifier as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the cursor as the pivot point, and I'm going to spin this edge over to the other side to make the curve top. And to do that, we'll go into edit mode. We'll select the edge and we'll select this spin.
God, that was loud.
That's what it sounds like outside for me, y'all. I'm scared because we have a tornado watch going on.
Oh, lordy. It's been lovely and sunny here today.
Oh, lucky.
So
want to trade?
When we select the spin tool, we get, you can see it's currently set to spin on the Z axis. It's blue, which means Z, and you can see Z is highlighted up here. We want it to spin along the X axis because it's going to go across that. So we select X. Well, that's not right. That's Y. Okay, we'll do it that way. Okie dokie. You know, I did select X. Honestly, my eyesight. Tell you, I need new glasses. Anyway, we've got that. All you do is you take the little plus sign and you just spin it around. And if you hold down Shift, it'll do it in increments and you can do it exactly the
Cool.
right amount. Pull up this
Nice.
menu here and you can see we've exactly gone 180 degrees. You can actually type whatever value you want in there, 60 degrees, whatever. But we want a full 180 to make that curved lid. And then what we can do,
That's pretty cool.
I'm just going, if you hit the / button, that will isolate what you're working on. And we can literally, if I'm still in edge mode, yes I am,
Sorry about that, guys.
hold down Alt and control that edge. Alt
Damn,
and
man.
control. Click that edge and you can hit F for fill. Same on the other side, control and click and F for fill. And there is our lid. And we can add the solidify modifier and we'll give it a value of 0.04, the same as the other one. An even thickness. And there we have a lid. And if you like, you can also auto smooth it. This is a shaded flat, which is fine if you want it to look like it's, you know, made of flat pieces of wood. If you want it to be smooth, I've got an add-on which does an auto smooth, I think. Just hit shade smooth there. And then under normals, this is where you would normally adjust your UV maps, vertex group, shape keys and whatnot. Just click on normals down here and hit auto smooth. And if you find that there are any edges that it's not picking up, you just adjust the degrees here. If I go over 90 degrees, you'll see this 90 degree edge is now smoothed and looks wacky. So we'll just set it back to 30, which is the default. So we've got a smooth lid. We'll
Nice.
press the / again to come out of isolation mode. There is our chest with the lid. Now what we'd normally do is do the bands around it. And we can do this a couple of ways. Probably what I'd like to do is start that again, honestly. Go into edit mode. And if you hold Control and R and hold somewhere near an edge, you can add edge loops. And if you scroll your mouse wheel, you can add a number of edge loops, or you can type in however many you want. I want 2. So I just type in 2 and enter. Then you can slide it along, but if you just want it dead in the middle where it would normally start, just hit escape or right click, as I do. But they're a bit too close together. I'd like them a bit further apart. So I'm going to scale them along the x-axis and we'll make it, I don't know, maybe about there. This is just where my bands are going to be. Come out of edit mode and we'll do the same with the lid, but now we'll have a nifty thing. If you look up here, you've got a few options. These are your snap. This is your snap tool, and you can choose to snap to just increments. And you can actually turn on absolute grid snap, so it'll snap to the lines. You can snap to a vertex or an edge or a face, and all of these we're probably going to use at some point. They're very handy, but on this occasion I'm going to use edge because we've just created a couple of edges. They're called edges even though they're not, they're like loops, but yeah. So what we'll do the same thing again, Control and R to create an edge loop, 2 to make the ones we want, and then right click to leave them where they are. I'm just going to, is this where I want it? There we go. I'm just going to turn on wireframe so you can see the edges were created here. Not quite sure how this will work. Shall we try scale on the X? Yeah, it doesn't really work. It's not the way I wanted, so I'll cancel that. What I'll do is I'll select this edge loop by control and click. And if you press G twice, it'll slide it just within the mesh. It won't kind of go any further. And if we hold down control and hover over this edge, it lines it up perfectly. And we'll do the same with that one. GG, hover over there, and that's it lined up. So now what I'm going to do is we'll start with the main chest. We'll select, goodness gracious, select this edge, and then if you hold down hold down Alt and Shift as well, you can also add that edge loop. Obviously, just clicking on an edge on its own just selects that edge. That's why I'm holding down Alt, so it selects the entire loop. And then Alt and Shift to select that entire loop. And then what we're going to do is bevel it. So if we hit Control and B for bevel, we can drag that out and we can make it as wide as we want for our for the bands of metal. So I think I'm going to probably leave it at that. There's our width there. I'm going to copy that. Presume that's what I need. We'll soon find out. A lot of this is often just trial and error. So we'll select that edge loop and that edge loop, bevel, drag it out a bit, and I'll just paste the width in there as well. So it should be exactly the same. And then come out of edit mode, we'll go back to the main chest. What I want to do is, I can't even remember how I made this one originally, you know, but what we're going to do is extrude some of these. So we'll go into face mode and we'll select that one and that one and that one and that one, and we want to extrude them along their normals, because if we just hit E and extrude now, well, you can see it's just crackers.
Mhm.
Now then, maybe is it because, oh, that's why, you see, it's because I haven't applied the modifiers. So I'm going to do that on both of them. And then try again. Edit mode, face mode. We only want these outside bits. Yeah, as you can tell, it just doesn't work. Even if you choose an axis, it doesn't do what we want. So what we want to do is hold Control and E, not just E for extrude, but Control and E, and we get this menu and we can extrude the faces along their normals. So then, because the normals are pointing outwards, it's extruding them the way the normals are actually facing. So we'll just extrude it by maybe about that much. That'll do. We'll come out of edit mode. And you know what it is, I didn't take a note of how much we extruded them, so I'll just do that again. About that much. There we go. There's my offset. I'll just copy that. And we'll do the same with this. So now with this one, we only want to select, we don't want to select the inside, just the outside. So we can select that face, and if you hold down control and go to this face, it chooses the shortest path. And we can do the same with that. Hold down control, choose the shortest path, control and E to extrude along normals, and we'll put the same offset in there. And that should be the same. So now what we can do is we can select an edge. We'll select this one here, and we'll set the, should have done it the right way. The normal way to do it is to select an edge, and you place your cursor at the edge. You know what it is? This is ridiculous. I am so used to using shortcuts. I don't know the proper way of doing it. Where is it again? I've totally forgotten. Let's try F3. Cursor, orientation, pivot point. Mesh that, no. There we go, cursor to selected. I wonder if that's the one we want. Cursor to selected, there we go. You would do that in edit mode, then you would come out of edit mode, then you'd right click and you'd say set origin to 3D cursor. But I've got a shortcut installed where I just literally hit Shift and S and it does it for me the quick way. But now that we've put the origin point there, it means that when we rotate this on the X axis, so R for rotate, X for X axis, we can open the lid. And that is basically our chest. That's a basic chest done. We'll just turn off wireframe there, check how it's looking. I'm just going to make sure I've set the scale on both of them, just by hitting Control and A and S for scale. It's important to set the scale because bevels don't work properly, your UV unwrapping won't be correctly to scale and all kinds of things. So always set your scale when you're ready to continue. We're going to, I've just gone into material mode up here. I'm now going to manually unwrap this because I want bits of it to be wood and bits of it to be metal. So what I'm going to do is, I'm having to think about whether I need to split this up into different meshes. That might be the easiest way. So I've just gone into UV editing here and we'll start with the lid because that's what I happen to have selected. And we need to decide which bits we're going to separate out. I'll just hit / again to isolate it so I can see it properly, and we'll just move this over a bit. So we know we definitely want these faces here. Come on, why is it not working? What on earth? My control button has decided to, oh, there we go. Okay, so we've selected those, but then we want these edges, like the sides as well. So you can hold down control and hit the plus button on your number pad, and that just increases the selection a bit. And then I probably want maybe this bit and this bit because they kind of look like they could be parts of hinges. Because I'll also be selecting the same here. So at least it looks like it's kind of joined together. So they are going to be separated out by selection, because we'll UV unwrap them separately. We'll just join them back together again afterwards. So then we'll start with this bit, and we'll isolate that. And actually, you know what? This bit's going to be on the floor, so I'm not going to bother about that. Could even just remove it, but we'll just select those two and those two, and we'll hit Control and plus to increase the selection, and we'll, which way was it again? That way. Yeah, we'll select them bits, and they can be the hinges as well, and we'll separate that by selection. So we've now got 4 pieces that we need to unwrap, and we'll start with this one. All I'm going to do, because everything basically is based on a cube, I'm just going to select everything by hitting A, U for UV, and then you can either click on cube projection, or I just hit C for cube. And that kind of looks okay. It doesn't matter if they're overlapping. So we now need to find a nice texture, and I'll go to the usual ambientcg.com, and we'll find a free wood texture, and just pick one you like. Really doesn't matter. Preferably not one with like floorboards, because we don't want it just made out of floorboards. This one looks nice. In fact, this might be the one I used originally.
What the hell?
Also looks quite nice.
You're in a class. Can you mute?
So we'll download that one. We'll make 2K JPEG will do. And we'll open that. We'll copy it, and we'll pop it into D. Banter Projects. What was it called again? I can't remember. Lisa's Workshop. That was it. And I've already created a folder called Chest, so I'll just pop it in there, and we'll unzip it. Okay, so now we can go back to here. Oh, that's not quite what I wanted. We're not quite ready for that. Go back to here. And we now need to open up the texture we've just unzipped. And we'll just open up the main colour so we can see how it's going to look, and we'll go into material view over here. And we need to actually set up a shader. So I'm just, with this, very handy add-on that I do recommend to everybody. Under preferences, look for Node Wrangler or Wrangler and tick that. It's built into Blender. You don't need to download anything, just enable it. And when you do, if you select the principled BSTF here in the material and hit Control, Shift and T, you can then search for all your materials that you're using. So I'm going to look for this wood, and then just select all the images you're going to use. I'm going to double check which is which. We don't want the DX normal, it's got to be OpenGL. We've got roughness, we're not going to use displacement, we'll use ambient occlusion. So I'll take that one, that one, that one, and that one. And I'm just holding down Control to select them. And then principled texture setup, and there it is all set up for you. And the only one that won't be set up correctly is the ambient occlusion. you can see it's not plugged into anything because we need to multiply the base colour by the ambient occlusion for it to work. And a quick way of doing that with Node Wrangler is to hold down Control and Shift and use your right mouse button and drag from one to the other. And it sets up a mix node. It needs to be multiply and it needs to be base colour with ambient occlusion. So base colour comes first. We can just swap them over. So that's the material set up. Now we should be able to see it on the chest. I'm not very happy about that because I think the wood should be going across that way, sideways. Doesn't really matter too much about the bottom, but I'm going to deselect the bottom parts anyway because I think they're okay as they are. And then over this side, if we select everything that we've got selected over here and just make sure your cursor's over this box, if you type R for rotate and 90, that rotates those parts of the UV and the wood is flowing in the direction I want it to. However, I didn't deselect these bits. That's not right. So I'll take these sections as well and we'll rotate them. Minus 90, we'll put them back the way they were. So I think that is quite reasonable. Now the only thing is I do think that the wood grain is a bit too big. It needs to be smaller because it's 1.5 meters long, this chest. So I'm going to increase the size of the UVs and I'll just do that by again hovering over here. Make sure you've selected everything by hitting A, scale 2, and we'll just double it and see what that looks like. And I think that's all right. So that's the first one unwrapped. That looks a bit crazy though, but that's because everything has got the same material. So what I'm going to do, I did actually separate them, didn't I? Yes, I did. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this material to wood. And this bit we could probably give, oh, it already has wood. That's fine. So this one needs a new material again. So I'm going to remove that and add a new one. And we'll call this, just call it metal, I guess. That'll do. So we need to find a steel kind of thing, or I don't know what to look for. Steel, aluminium, iron, cast
Iron.
Iron. Say they're a bit too. I'll have this rusty one. That'll do for now. So we'll open that. We want metal. We'll just cut it and move it into here. Chest. Paste it in there. Unzip it. So we'll just set up a quick material for that. Again, Control Shift and T. Metal. And then have a look. We want the normal GL. We want the colour. Want the roughness. Want the metalness. So those 4 there. And there's no ambient occlusion with this because there isn't usually with metallic things. And that looks pretty crap, but we're going to unwrap it properly. So all we need to do with this, I don't think we really need to do much at all. We just need to rotate stuff and size them. So I'll do the cubic unwrap again. and we'll rotate them by 90 degrees. And should we scale them? Maybe. We've just made them bigger so that the texture is smaller. It's a tileable texture. We don't want to scale them too much or you'll start to see a pattern repeat. But that kind of looks okay-ish. So this bit, again, that one is already set up as wood. So I'm just isolating it again. Not sure if a cubic unwrap's going to work with this, but I'm going to try it and we'll see. And it doesn't, because you can see it's split it in the middle and we've got some of the wood going that way and some of it going that way. So this one we're probably going to have to unwrap manually. So this is where we go up here and we can tick live unwrap. This is, what's this called here? I have no idea. It's called workspace settings. Yeah, tick live unwrap, and then over here in the left hand thing you can also tick live unwrap and turn on sync, which basically is these arrows here, and that just means anything you select on this side will be automatically selected on that side. And then you should be able to see it being unwrapped on the fly. So this is where we need to decide where our cuts are going to go. So the first thing I want to do is to cut go into edge mode first of all, Lisa. First thing I want to do is cut the sides out, and then the rest of this should unfold quite flat quite easily. And to cut the sides out, again I'm just holding down control so it follows the shortest path. Down here where it says pick shortest path, you can expand that and you can choose tag seam, so it will actually mark the seam as you go. And we're going to do the same on the other side. It doesn't look like much at the moment, but don't worry, it'll all come together. Tag seam. And then we've got to think about how this is going to unwrap. I'll mark that edge as well, so that is all one piece on its own. But this bit we can probably just mark these bits, because if, as I've explained before, if you imagine this section it's as if you're unwrapping your model as if it was paper and you're wanting to lay it flat to put your texture on. So we'll do the same with this one. Do that one and that one. And that one. And then we'll just tag those corners. And they are unwrapped quite nicely. I'm not going to worry about the rotation just at the minute. I now want to concentrate on unwrapping the rest of it. Let's just move this over a bit. So, how am I going to unwrap this bit? Well, I think the easiest thing to do is just to mark these bits, and then that whole inside section will lay flat. And in fact, most of it's looking pretty good now anyway. That is going to work fine. They are going to work fine. Yeah, that's it. Because there's no sides here, so this is going to fold out flat, and the same on the other pieces. So the only thing I need to do now is to adjust the UVs so that the wood's flowing in the right direction. And I think we can probably just rotate the whole thing. So again, rotate by 90, and we'll double the scale because we're just doubling the scale on everything at the minute. It looks okay. So if we go back to layout mode and see what that's like, that's reasonable. And then there's just these bits here. and we need to give it the metal material. And I think we can just do the same thing with this, to be honest. Unwrap. Goodness, why did it do that? Unwrap cubic. That's not quite right because it's broken it up here. So we'll unwrap this one manually as well. So all I'm going to do is mark these corners. Because we're literally kind of unfolding. It's like kind of unfolding a box or a bag. And that doesn't look too bad. If I really wanted them to be perfect, I could just use text tools. Now, I'm not sure if text tools is something that's built into Blender. I can't remember. Or if it's something you have to download. I think it's built into Blender and you just have to enable it. But there's a rather handy thing here under UV layout. We've got to disable sync first of all and select these. There's a button down here that says rectify. If you click on it, it straightens everything out perfectly. And that looks spot on to me. I'm just going to scale it again by 2. And that's basically our chest done. Now we could have done the bands at the bottom, but I don't see the point because you're never going to see them anyway. So then what we can do is we can just work out which is which first of all. Rejoin everything back together so that can be joined back with that. And that can be joined back with that. And it doesn't matter if the UVs are overlapping because we have got 2 sets of UVs, one on top of another, because there's different materials, but it's fine because when we come to bake our lighting, we'll be using a second UV channel, which is where I'm going to unwrap it properly here. I'll just get rid of that. And for the second UV channel, you can probably, in fact, I wouldn't unwrap it. I would just use pack islands because it's already unwrapped. Pack islands and increase the margin a bit so you don't get any bleed. And do the same with that one. Second UV channel, select all, pack islands. And maybe reduce that one a little bit, the margin. And that's it, set up. The only different thing I did, apart from spending time making locks for the chest, which you can kind of, oh god, what have I done? Man. Which you can kind of see here, I made simple kind of locks for it. The only other thing I did was to actually bake the texture. So it's literally, I've baked a texture map rather than using 2 different PBR textures. And there's no normals, there's no nothing on that. It's just simple diffuse colours that I used for it. That is something we can go into another time. But for this, because it's more or less ready and we've actually even got the hinge sorted, we could animate this. What I think I'll do, rather than putting this one in, because we've already got one, which is better, I think, because it's got the locks on. But it's exactly the same principle. It's still 2 pieces. At least it is in the Blender file. What I'll do is I'll separate these out and we'll animate it and maybe set up some kind of lock or button. I'm not quite sure how to do it, but we could have you maybe click one of the clasps when it's closed and it'll open up, something like that. I think that'll be a cool thing to do for next week. It'll take too long to do it this week because we've only got a few minutes left. But I could certainly, there's no reason at all why I couldn't still export this. And we'll export it using machine tools again because it's quick and no, let's not. Let's do it the traditional way, shall we say. So we're going to export it as an FBX. What I want to do though is select both of them, I think. We'll export it as one FBX, but it's still two meshes. So export FBX, selected objects, mesh, Z forward, Banter projects, Lisa's workshop, assets, chest. And we'll call it chest. Keep your fingers crossed. That's just the normals. Yes, we'll fix them. And then, if we go into chest, we'll just hover through to another cave here and we'll throw the chest in here. See what it looks like. We need to rotate it. It hasn't got its materials set up, of course. But yeah, it does look a bit big, doesn't it? Actually, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. So
It's a model load.
Can you not use the scale, like mark it and scale it down using the scale tool in Unity?
Yeah, I could do. Absolutely. But I actually think it looks all right. Size-wise, I don't think it's bad. And you got to remember that this cave is very small. If you remember, it was quite claustrophobic when we were all in here last week.
Can we put a gremlin in it next time and have it jump at you when you open it?
Jack in the box.
Oh, yes.
Right, so what I'm going to do is we'll just find a Banter projects, Lisa's workshop, assets, chest. I don't need to do that, they're already in there. Okay, so we're just going to create a couple of materials. For speed, it's not what I recommend, but for speed I'm just going to use Autodesk Interactive. And we'll just set up the wood to start with. Lisa, you idiot. So what we got? Ambient occlusion, yeah. And I'm back. So, where was I? Yes, I was setting up the material, ambient occlusion, we've got the colour. What's this? Displacement, no. Normal DX, no. Normal GL, yes.
Just. Oh.
So just drag that onto there, and then I should have probably renamed it. Wood. And we'll create one for metal. I might even set up another arm shader for this one to do it properly and have it work properly in Banter. But for now, like I say, for speed, I'm just using Autodesk Interactive. Metal, colour, displacement, metalness, yeah. Normal, yeah. Oh, goodness. And roughness. And then we can drag the metal onto there. And it looks black, and that's probably because we don't have a reflection probe in. I don't know. We'll drag that. Oh, that's already on there, and that one onto there. So, how we're doing for time? 4 minutes. Shall we stick in a quick reflection probe as well and see how that's going to look? We'll just mark these as to contribute global illumination. We'll go into top view, orthographic, and around here is where I want to put in a reflection probe. Reflection probes are under light. So right above light probes you have reflection probes. So we'll stick that in, and it is more or less in the middle, which is fine. We'll go to side, and we want it to be kind of in the middle there. But we do want to set up where our box is for the reflection probe. And for this, you do want to make it as small as possible, because we don't want it to have to do too many calculations, basically. We want this to make it as easy as possible for Unity. So I'm just going to shrink this down to kind of the size of the cave. That looks alright. And then, once we've done that, technically we should be able to bake it. So, this is already set to baked. So what I'm going to do is let bakery sort it all. We're going to bake the light for this, which hopefully I've done properly. Because we've unwrapped it, we've given it a second light map channel, and we've set it to contribute global illumination. That's right. So we'll bake that, and then once it's baked, we're going to hit this third button down, which is render reflection probes. So yes, we're going to save the changes. Just wait for that to do, because of course it's not just doing the chest, is it? It's doing all of the caves again.
Hopefully it's quicker than mine.
Oh, bakery is. It's light and fast compared to Unity's built-in. That's, to be honest, if I could, I would just use all the built-in stuff and not have to use paid-for apps, but would spend the entire hour just sitting here waiting for it to bake if I didn't.
Oh, I know that feeling.
I'm still
Yeah,
not
yeah.
convinced this is right, but oh, we'll render reflection probes again. Right, so it's worked, but everything's got a strange bluey cast to it. And the reason is because we've also got a roughness map on this wood, and this metal is reflecting the sky box. I don't think I've got a skylight on here. No, I haven't. And what I should have done with bakery, you should always have a bakery skylight. so that it actually renders the colours properly. And for that, what we'd normally do is choose a colour that would kind of match the skybox, which is grey. So I'll just choose grey because that'll do. Oh man, here we go again. Man, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous getting kicked out. Anyway, we've done that much. We have baked the reflection probes. We'll fix all the rest of this next time. We didn't get to do as much stuff as I wanted, but at least we made it a chest. We'll try and animate it next week, as I say, and set up a script to open the lid, which I think will be quite cool. So, it's after 8 my time now, so thank you everybody for coming. I'm going to stop the recording.